Christmas time is finally here, and that means Secret Santa. If you have any kind of social life, are in the workforce, or involved in any type of friend groups, then you probably know this time of year is the time of year for Secret Santa and white elephant gifts. Since I was a stay-at-home mom for such a long time now, and being back into the workforce for the first holiday season, I will say I am so pleasantly surprised with how wonderful it has been. I've been able to have so much time with my kids still, and still embrace the holiday season, and still have time for all of the things that I love and make the holidays just feel so warm and exciting, while also having other things going on within work that make it that much more fun and exciting as well. A group of the girls at work decided to get together and do a Secret Santa exchange, and I was so excited and flattered that we got involved and that I was able to be a part of it. And so perfectly, the person that I chose loved homemade gifts. It's so nice that where I work, they put together these cute little questionnaires, so we all filled everything out, and then it was sent out in an email. So still nobody knew who anybody had, but we could look and reference everybody's answers to learn a little bit more about the people and what we could shop for. So while I did do some shopping for this person, and there was just a $35 budget, which comes quick these times, I picked up a few little items that you won't see in this video. Along with that, I really wanted to do something special for this person. She's very kind, she is very social and very silly. She was one of the first people to really talk with me and just make me feel super comfortable and welcome being in a new position, always asking me about my kids, about myself, while also just sharing about herself, making everybody feel super comfortable. And she has a way of making people feel very comfortable and invited into the environment that she is in. Luckily, I had already known quite a bit about the person that I had chosen, so it really wasn't hard to shop for her, and it wasn't too hard for me to pick what subject I wanted to paint. She loves pigs and donkeys and cows, and so initially I had thought about trying to do some type of watercolor or oil painting of one of those animals. I knew that she had a couple in her home already and thought I could try to build off of and play off of the style of the paintings that she had. But one day in my office, I was wearing a floral dress, and she came in and we were talking, and she was just complimenting me, and then she was complimenting the dress and was just going on and on about how much she loves flowers. And so I thought, you know what? A floral canvas painting for her would be perfect, especially because I knew she loved color, she loved florals, and she loves sunflowers. So I really wanted to play off of color, depth, and sunflower. Luckily, Pinterest is a thing, and I went on Pinterest and found a perfect reference. But as you'll see, as the painting progresses and becomes more of what it became, there is a huge difference from what I was referencing to what actually came out in the painting. And this is actually one of my favorite things to see, because I think so many times as artists we get nervous to copy things. And while sometimes you can obviously copy things exactly as they are, when you actually are looking for things just as a reference, I would imagine, at least I can say for myself, it always comes out so much different, but the reference was a very prominent point in the beginning. I have noticed that when I do floral pieces like this, where it's just kind of a little bit on the abstract side, but it's very full and big, it's almost like a bird's eye view, just a whole page will be covered in florals, that a reference is actually very helpful in terms of placement. If you haven't really worked with like bouquets or aren't used to arrangements of flowers, it can be really difficult to really know how to group things together and how to lay out the painting. And I think overall, when you have a reference, that is the biggest aspect of it. It's understanding how big a person is. It's understanding how many of a object or a subject that you want in certain spaces. So I think in terms of space and then of value color, a reference is just so helpful. But in the end, as you will see if you were to reference the beginning of this video and saw the picture that I found on Pinterest and what I was referencing, how different it actually looks. But it's so helpful to just getting started, to getting over the blank page and trying to come up with an original idea. I think it's super, super helpful. So with this painting, I knew I wanted it to be very special. I wanted it to feel very homemade, but I obviously wanted it to be in my style. I wanted it to have a feeling of it being worked. And I usually don't paint for people like this. I will usually paint and go more toward a print, so I am not always as careful because I know there will be a decent amount of editing that I can possibly do. Of course, I always do my best to make my best work, but I have never given an original, especially an original oil painting, away. So I just really wanted to make this special. I wanted to do it right. So I sketched it all out. I started with pencil and then went in with colored pencil to just help really narrow in the focus of knowing what colors are going to be where, just to continue to help guide me through the process. I've done about 3 or 4 different style oil paintings prior to this one, and I think every one that I've done, I really learned something along the process that I could do differently. So with this one, I think laying out the sketch and having the color and doing a rougher sketch, but also not being afraid of like really getting in the canvas with the sketch was very helpful. So I did that first with a reference, which really helped me lay out where I wanted each floral to be, what color everything would be. So it gave me a really good grasp about the direction that I was heading into. And next is one of the best parts, I think. It's one of the messiest parts, but I think it's just very go, like no excuses, get painting. And that is using a little bit of a medium for the acrylic to water it down a bit and just doing that underpainting on the canvas. And that I just went in and did that, and I just went in with all the different colors of the flowers in their positions, and I just let it drip. I let it be super messy, and there's something just so freeing about it. It's almost like I feel like I'm splattering paint on the wall. It's like my favorite part of starting a canvas painting, because there is something a little bit more intimidating to me about a canvas painting, because I know as it progresses, it's going to turn from like gouache and acrylic to oil, and I just feel like there's something that feels so professional about oil, and it sort of feels more like that imposter syndrome starts to kick in. So I just love the whole feeling that I get from the underpainting. So with the underpainting, I start with wetting down the acrylic, letting it run. I do use some gouache as well, and then I just do that as much as I possibly can. I keep layering, I keep adding, and that is what you just saw. That was all acrylic and a little bit of gouache, and eventually I stop watering it down and let it get thicker and more opaque. And now I have moved on to oil. The color progression is really interesting as I went on in this painting, because I just wasn't quite happy with all the contrast. And while I certainly wasn't going for a realistic view, it's definitely more abstract, more liney, if you will. As I was going into it, I really just wanted a lot of deep layers. I almost wanted the bottom layers to almost feel blurry and to there be like very known and prominent that things were sort of stacked on top of each other, that there were layers. So there were in fact a lot of layers being put into this, and I had to think very intentionally about what florals I was working at in which time, because with layering and getting into it, I had to be very conscious of what flowers were on top of the other, and then that would obviously determine what flowers I had to work on first. So as you could probably see the whole time, once I hit the oil paints, I was kind of avoiding the sunflowers at the beginning and really trying to get that underpainting right, those flowers that are going to be all the way under at the right color, the right different varieties, the right highlights, and then going back in and building up on top. And this is the final product, something that I loved. I was so proud of. I loved what it morphed into. I like how all of the colors just complement each other and how all of the flowers are just there and work well with one another. And while I was looking at it, I did really like it, but I also noticed that I didn't wrap the canvas. I didn't paint the flowers because initially I had thought I wanted to create some type of a frame, and once I saw it, I was like, okay, I definitely have to frame this now because I didn't prepare a painting for it not to be framed. So I chopped up some extra wood that we had. I think these are just 2 inches thick. And these are actually, this was extra wood that I had from the shelves that I made for the office space. If you haven't seen those previous 2 videos that I've made so far about the office transformation, this is a definite sneak peek into the office. But I used that, chopped them up, and made a super homemade feeling and eclectic frame. I painted it a dark plum because I didn't actually know how much she liked purple. And this was the final outcome. I thought it was so beautiful. I thought it complemented the painting so well. And just to let you all know, she totally cried when I gave her this gift. Which made all the work and all the effort more than worth it.